I've been looking forward to Stephanie's reading, and Stephanie Lenox is the author of Congress of Strange People, Airlie Press, and the award-winning chapbook, The Heart That Lies Outside the Body, selected by Denise Duhamel. She is the founding editor of the online literary journal, Blood Orange Review, and teaches creative writing at Willamette University. I can say that she was one of the featured poets at the Oregon Poetry Association conference at Pacific, not this last spring, but a year ago. I had a chance to take one of her workshops and thought it was terrific. So would you join me in welcoming our poet for tonight, Stephanie Lenox. Stephanie.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you to the Poetry Committee. Thank you to the Letting Library for having me. I'm very pleased to be your grand finale for your 7th series. So tonight I'm going to read from my book, mainly from my book, Congress of Strange People. And I hope you appreciate I got a haircut before I came. This is, yeah. So just a little bit about this book, Congress of Strange People. The name comes from the Ringling Brothers Circus. It was the name of their sideshow. In the 20th century, they were known as Congress of Freaks. And then they had a little committee meeting and decided they didn't like the word freak. They wanted to be called something else. And so Strange People was the name that they embraced for themselves. And I really found that to be interesting. And so that became the umbrella for a series of poems that I have. I have poems about my family. I have poems about strange people, definitely. I have poems written in the voices of other people, mainly people who have set records in the Guinness Book of World Records. Because for my entire life, I've been fascinated by people who do extreme things, who engage in these superlative acts that where they maybe grow their fingernails out for a couple feet. Like, what motivates people to do these extreme gestures? And so I wanted to explore that a little bit in my book. And so my book has 3 parts. I consider it my personal 3-ring circus. It starts with family, it moves into poems in the voices of other people, and then it sort of broadens out to poems that invite the strange world into the conversation. So I'll start with a poem that I frequently start with because it's one of the first that initiated my project of writing in the voices of other people. And this is called The Heart That Lies Outside the Body. And as Tom mentioned, this book started as a chapbook with the same title, The Heart That Lies Outside the Body. And it sort of blossomed into a full-length book. And for each of these poems, I start with an excerpt from the Guinness Book of World Records. And so this is Christopher Wall, born August 19th, 1975, is the longest known survivor of the condition known as ectopia cordis. Are you familiar with that? Okay. Yes, yeah. The mortality rate is high, with most patients not living beyond 48 hours. So this is the heart that lies outside the body. I know people want to touch it, like I'm some pregnant woman or one of those cut open cows with a portal in its side. As soon as I could talk, I said aorta, pulmonary artery, vena cava. These words hold my life in place. I learned how to have fun with it, dress it up like a ventriloquist dummy, throw my voice into the fleshy lump. I memorized the telltale heart and chased my cousins around the yard shouting, it grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. I've had to explain myself so often, ectopia cordis, ectopia cordis, ectopia cordis, ectopia cordis, that once I totally lost it and hit a man for asking. And, of course, considering my condition, he forgave me. Now people don't bother to ask, or if they do, I say it feels just fine. In fact, I've lived so long the doctors say I'll die like everyone else. I have dreams that it fills with air, floats away. I don't know what that means. And so for me, this project has been an attempt to try to figure out what it means to live with your heart exposed to the world, to live vulnerable like that, to the challenges that we face in life. And so I'll just read my next poem. This one is entitled No One Gets Hurt. And it's written in the voice of Dean Sheldon, who in 2000 earned the record for holding both the largest scorpion and the most scorpions in his mouth at one time. So just imagine what it is that motivates someone like that. And listen, as I read the poem, you'll be able to hear how many scorpions he actually did hold in his mouth. This is called No One Gets Hurt. I can't say what I was thinking the first time I unhinged my jaw to see what I'd kept so quietly there. We have an unspoken agreement. Even the largest arachnid curls close to my patient breath. I open my mouth so wide that my fear escapes, wide enough it becomes a desert, and my teeth so many wind-shaped stones. I can't tell you what it's like to feel those lives shifting inside me. It's not unlike the man who ate steel hotter than the surface of Venus and let it cool in his mouth. To those who say I do it for a name, I say, so? Who isn't prey to that hunger? And to the man who spat a cricket, dead 30 feet, one question: was it alive when it first went in? The way I hold these creatures' venomous tails, 4 pairs of legs folded lightly as if in prayer, no one gets hurt. Can you say that? What better way to know strength than to hold that carapace of space on the soft bed of the tongue? 20 is not nearly enough to show the dark distances great inside me. Inside my mouth, I can hold anything. So, I feel like I know these people because I've spent so much time trying to imagine why they do the things that they do. But there were some people that I encountered during this project that I had a hard time getting into their skin. And I tried, and I'd write a poem and I'd have to abandon it because it just didn't feel right. And this one character, Tom Leopard, I decided I had to take a different approach. Tom Leopard, he holds the record for having the most percentage of his body covered in tattoos, 99.9%. And he has a leopard print design, so he's very stylish at the same time. So I thought about this man, I wanted to write in his voice, but his voice never came to me. So I had to do the next best thing, which was to write in the voice of someone who is intimate with him. And so this is called Making Love to Leopard Man. And just one little bit of detail about Tom is after doing all this, after getting his body tattooed, he went and moved to the Isle of Skye and lived as a hermit. So, though I'm not a needle, let me touch you. Let me look into the pink secret of your ear. Let me part, one by one, your reclusive, unmarked toes. Trust me, you are not the first man I've known who thought he was an animal, who sharpened his claws without knowing what to do with them. Like continents, your bruised green spots drift apart. Lying beside you, I watch the ink bleed slowly into the tiny channels of skin, edges blurring into your yellow sea. 106 islands I've counted so far. That one looks like a storm cloud. That one at your hip like the head of a woman. You're not the only one who knows how to make the body an elaborate disguise. How I wish the children who torment you would throw stones at the ugly hut of my life and scatter like birds when I glare at them. I want to bathe my scars in the Isle's dirty river. I want fangs. Let me show you how hermit crabs do it. Tap my borrowed shell until I uncurl like a raw finger, exposing myself to salt. Out there, I could be eaten. I could be carried by the current into the mouth of prey. Hold me closer with your human claws. For now, let's pretend we have nothing to hide. So I think I'll transition. I'll read a bridge poem that for me takes us from the Guinness characters, the people from the Guinness book, to my own strange family. And part of what I think I connect with in the Guinness book is that my grandfather and I used to read it together. And so I have very fond memories of just poring over the paperback edition, you know, the one that smells like someone's basement, that is sort of gritty. This is the first poem in my book, and it's called Inheritance. Sunday afternoons, grandfather and I studied the Guinness book, dog-earing our favorites. Mike, the headless chicken that lived 18 months before dying in an Arizona hotel room. The man whose arm was severed and reconnected 3 separate times. Lazarus, Jesus, and the lame girl combined. Your grandmother is in there, he nudged me. Keep looking. I scanned the medical marvels, extreme bodies, for the woman he said could balance a piano on the tip of her tongue. I stared at each smudged photo until every woman began to look like family, same eyes squinting against amazing burden. Other times we huddled over the family tree, its names branching out on butcher paper, me captivated by the word genealogy, as if it contained the power to grant my 3 greatest wishes, while he plotted everything, traced us back to Singowa, chief of a tribe of pranksters. He pinched my skin until the blood rose. See, you are red. Then he showed me how to cup my hand over my mouth to make a war cry. Once before leaving, he said he had a present for me and dropped something weightless, invisible in my hand. The world's smallest guitar, he explained. Like the one we read about, size of a human blood cell, completely functional. Now play me a song. My pulse picked up as I tried to think what I could do. Leaning over with the tip of his fingernail, he strummed once the center of my palm, told me to press my ear against it. So in my family, I spent a lot of time in the backyard playing with my dog and, in fact, sort of mean-spiritedly playing with my dog and torturing him. And so this poem comes from that. This is called Torturing the Dog. To our ratty mutt bear, any other 100 sounds could be his name. He'd tilt his tangled ears to Buddy, Bimbo, Buddha, wag his tail at buffoon or bum. And the cat, preferring to remain nameless, watched him roll and sit and beg to beefcake or butthead. All that mattered was saying it high and rich, dangling the word like a biscuit above his nose. My sister and I, bored, would position ourselves on opposite sides of the yard with Bear between us, calling and calling his name to see where his loyalties lay. We'd croon any name we could think of, piercing the air with shrill devotion, reveling in our power as our dog ran great, spasmodic circles between us. Tongue hanging out, round and round, shredding the grass, kicking up dirt, drool trailing like rains no one would ever want to control, running and running until he puked. A poet at heart, he rhymed sweet with treat, walk with talk, sopping up vocabulary with the small sponge of his brain. He was my first teacher, dog crazy with love, loving everyone equally, running circles around our created confusion, delirious with our attention, whatever our intent, taking every lovely last syllable as his own. And one of the things that recently at the Poets Concord in Newport, I gave a presentation on the prose poem. And I've been fascinated for a long time with the prose poem. And so I'll read you one, even though it probably won't sound like a prose poem when I read it. This is called Fairy Tale, one of the very first poems that I wrote, and it felt right to include it in my first book. Well, not the very first poem. I think the first poem I wrote was when I was 10, but Fairy Tale. I hated my house. It was not little. It was not on the prairie. My mother painted it pink with the end of her mile-long braid. I still hated it. My father added green gables with edible window panes. It was not what I wanted. They gave me a sister like a scarab against nightmares. She broke. We moved from teepee to log cabin to White House. I was never satisfied. My parents filled my room with mattresses and called me princess, but I never slept soundly. High-strung as a clothesline, I tiptoed along the sidewalk crack as if it were the devil's spine. I rehearsed a 7-year tribulation that never came. I was a good girl, never lied, never was alone. In my room, grounded, I watched the corners open, each a dark, unreadable book. And the last family poem that I'll read before moving on is called The Mother. I will place her in a basket and watch her drift away. I will crop her hair to scalp, twist her head round and round, tip her back until the voice box wanes, until she sounds like a barnyard animal gut hungry. I will bury her in the sandbox and raise her from the dead. I will sit on her like an egg. I will toss her through the air, my human flailing star. I will poke the soft body with sewing pins, soothe her then with familiar song. And when she cries, I will articulate. I will feed her gravel and rainwater. I will stone her in warning. When someone throws her down, I will go to her and lick the scuffs from her plastic arms. I will dip my fingers in water and place them in the corners of her eyes. The spider will spin its web across her face, and I will clear it away. I will teach her how to sleep, press the glass eyes shut. I will scold her and bend her knees in prayer. This is what it means to love, to feel the teeth grind against each other in the mouth, to give her a name, disown it, and give another. I will put her away in the night. I will look for her there. So I'm going to take a step back and read some of my other strange poems. This one's called Recycling Pornography, and it's based on actual events. And I was at a recycling center, and I was digging through, just looking for some fun, light reading, and found someone's nice stash of porn. And I'm thinking, who recycles this stuff? Some very environmentally conscious person, I think. So this is Recycling Pornography. I find her, hopeful as a student in a yearbook photo, showing off her odd trick. Legs pinned behind ears in white lace, almost lovely, almost graceful, below a neon title and date, as if it could be different each month. Wilder contortions, a new secret message spelled out in limbs and lips. How tedious it must be to sit like that while the camera searches day after day for a fresh angle, eyes begging to see more. How easily the legs fold back. She's a wishbone, a horseshoe, a charm of glossy flesh. Her eyes tell me she does not care who I am. She is not a textbook or footnote. Spread eagle across the page, she refuses to be overlooked. I need to understand this desire, to stretch it out until it becomes ordinary. What new use can I make of this? Show me, I ask her teetering form, what more can be done? I will not turn away. Show me something still frightening or so beautiful it will shock me again. During the course of writing these poems, specifically the ones that are in the voices of other people, I do some very light-handed research, which involves just Googling things. I have a poem about a snake handler, and in the process of trying to figure out what it's like to handle snakes, I came across Rudy Komarek, who is known as the Cobra King. And he's a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. He's 1/3 conspiracy theorist, 1/3 snake handler, and 1/3 hopeless romantic. And I discovered this by drilling into his website. I found some of his conspiracies, and a couple pages down, I found a personal ad for him. So I'll start with these two excerpts from his website. This is called Love Letter to a Conspiracy Theorist Snake Handler. And this is Rudy. Those who are making the decisions concerning our national security have realized the true source of a potential threat. The source is extraterrestrial and not from small third world countries as they would like us to believe. Looking for young, slender female who enjoys travel, adventure, hiking, and mountains, must be unattached, and then in all caps, long-term commitment for right person. So, both of those, Rudy Komarek, the Cobra King. So I imagined responding to him in this letter. Dear Sir, I am no Loch Ness monster, no foul-smelling Sasquatch tramp. You say you can handle cobras and government men, but can you handle me? You say man is not what he thinks he is, and the universe is not what he thinks it is. Well, I have theories so elaborate they could make you cry for mercy. You've seen close-ups of universal mischief. You've caught the most poisonous snakes and held them close to your heart. Such skills might come in handy. I've sat in fields waiting for spaceships to etch designs into summer grain. I've thrown back my head and whispered, "Take me." Let's enter that snake den of a logic. Let's see if you can mesmerize me. I, too, know the power of truth, how it could destroy the social structure in every great institution worth anything. Together, what risks we could take. A marvel that we, knowing so well the threat outside ourselves, can still call out blindly for love. They don't want us to know it. They want us to think it's a dream, a weather balloon, a low-flying plane. They don't want us to look up. We could tell each other the greatest lies. What couldn't we overthrow with our anarchist lovemaking? Take this conspiracy of arms and legs, wrap them around you. My kisses will be the secret code, defying all translation but yours. Do what you will with my alien heart. The guy never wrote back. Jerk. So I'm going to take a break from Congress of Strange People and read you some newer ones that I've been working on. I'll start with a project that I've been calling The Business, which is a collection of poems inspired by my stint as a secretary. And I was very frustrated in my little tiny cubicle. I didn't have a lot of work, but I had a lot of time, and so a lot of these poems were a result of that experience. I'll start with Secretaries in Heaven. I have two poems that are sort of married in my mind in this book. It's Secretaries in Heaven and Old Bosses in Heaven. So I'll read both of those. And I have my little stapler cover. This is their new office, alphabetizing clouds, creating a database of prayers received, prayers answered, shooing cherubs off the Xerox, the green beam churning out one perfect copy after another. They have taught the saints how to multitask. Their pearl drop fingernails take dictation. There is no need for whiteout since they've arrived. Heaven couldn't be better. The souls over their endless coffee mugs joke about who's really in charge. Death has been delegated to them completely. They're just so efficient. The pink stubs of their number twos descending from the heavens in a swift swipe of erasure. The afterlife requires such meticulousness. Perpetually sending out memos to the living, it is their business to know everything under the sun. Calves bejeweled in shimmering nylon that never runs, iridescent eyelids, they whisper in their cubicles, they know who's next. Here in this chorus of machines, the tone-deaf copier, the cacophony of the fax, the golden swing lines, thump and thud, they wait for us. Their round rumps on roller chairs that skim across the great, desperate spaces, so organized, so detail-oriented, singing, "Hallelujah, this is heaven. Please hold." And here are the old bosses in heaven. They still don't know how it happened, how all of you left them. not just the employees with their personal situations, but also the right-hand men of youth, their apple shine and unbearably good jokes. And who thought that girl Friday of breath, rushing in and out of the room, bearing news and notes from the latest meeting, would have gone so soon? Someone should have informed them of the eventualities of death. A memo, at least? Hello? Heaven, it appears, is the vacation they never took. And here they are, supervisors all, stuck forever in Bermuda shorts, wishing for sunglasses throughout eternity. In the field, they have set up a boardroom to confer over this serious matter, assessment and strategy, a cost analysis of the hereafter. But all they can remember are the others leaving. A box turtle, limping away from the backyard pond. The cockatiel spouting, "Sorry, Charlie," from the telephone wire. All the pets of their childhoods. The collie that ran away at every chance until finally it was hit by a van and still dragged itself another block from home before dying. They can't understand how every living thing found the open door irresistible. Even the body that turned in its letter with an easy, unfaithful flick of the wrist. So the next one I'll read is actually inspired by a note on an office fridge. I'm sure you've all seen these. Attention to whomever left fish uncovered in the office fridge for 3 weeks. Think of others. There are many ways to start a war. Take, for example, his assistant's 2 short skirts. Or the sign on the bathroom door that reads, "If you sprinkle when you tinkle, be a sweetie, wipe the seedy." No wonder no one likes poets. Meanwhile, paper clips disappear into a parallel universe. Your stapler each morning is turned ever so slightly to the left. It's psychological warfare. Soon enough, all whispers sound like your name. You're blamed for the broken coffee pot, and as a result, it will be months before the others look you in the eye. How hard is it to replace the toilet paper roll? Isn't that what we mean by community? Above the cubicles, little flags of dominion, little flags of surrender, but no one will tell you which is which. The intern says something about economies of scale. Because of this, we avoid him in the lunchroom. He won't last long. Here, the accountant's perfume creates a hostile work environment. Someone is going to HR about the dead plant in the corner. Some rules should never need to be explained. In the afternoon, the microwave chimes and someone distributes handfuls of popcorn, a bag of fluffy and butter-soaked aneurysms we all can share. And this is my newest edition. I always like to read a really fresh poem at readings, and this is one I received an email recently announcing that the fax machine is going to be leaving the office for good. So say your farewells. And I found myself feeling a little sad. I'm like, I need to write an elegy to the fax machine. And this, I take Philip Levine. Are you familiar with his poem, "Animals Are Passing from Our Lives"? I've taken his title and slaughtered it, and it's "Fax Machines Are Passing from Our Lives." And I begin the poem with a little excerpt from his poem, "Any moment I'll fall on my side and drum my toes like a typewriter. One day I will have to explain these things to my children. like the misguided tattoo, or the fact that while I did inhale, it only amplified my natural state of paranoia. I can't remember the last time I used one. Now that it's gone, I regret not taking the time to learn its complex array of buttons and what they were meant to do. The cacophony of its gears is a long-gone song taking me back to the good old days filled with breath mints, a steady paycheck, and the potted plant crowding the cubicle. I remember that coworker, the one I so detested, those nights spent filing dream insults and grinding my teeth to chalk. Wasn't that romantic? How long has it been since I felt that way about anyone? His exaggerated guffaw followed me everywhere. His pasty sneer seared itself into the back of my eyelids. I thought I would never be free of him. It's hard to imagine, but even that awkward behemoth will accumulate nostalgia, much as it once collected dust, squatting in the corner of the office, belching junk. And this last one, I definitely need a drink. This will be sort of my segue into some other newer poems, but this poem that I'll read is inspired by Christopher Smart, who wrote the poem Jubilate Agno, for I will consider my cat Geoffrey, for he is the servant of the living God, duly and daily serving him, and it goes on and on and on and on. And it's Latin for, his title is Latin for Rejoice in the Lamb, and it's a religious poem that he wrote while he was in an insane asylum, and his cat was his only companion. And for me, that sort of resonated with my experience working in an office. So I took his original poem as my model, and I wrote, Rejoice in the petty thievery of office supplies. For you are not the first to take what is not yours. For the ballpoint's grip aligns perfectly to your hand. For the string of paper clips makes an elegant accessory. For work begets more work, and in the meantime, you need a box of staples. For there are staplers, and then there are heavy-duty staplers. For you can never have enough sticky notes. For the cardstock is beautiful and thick and deserves a higher purpose. For you have an insatiable desire for paper products. For the office receives an unbelievable deal for ordering in bulk. For you are the one who does all the ordering. For your children are returning to school, and this is a form of tuition assistance. For there will again be no raises this year. For the manager kept you after hours 3 days in a row to review the budget that should have been completed last month, and your compensation will be a box of manila folders. For the letter opener sings with meaning. For all the Pilot Precise V5 retractable rollerball pens at home have gone dry. For your son is doing a science project and requires transparencies. For it is just a pen, not a pension. For to take what you need is an implicit reward of work. For everyone makes mistakes and has need for whiteout. For 1 in every dozen envelopes belongs to you. For 1 in every dozen binder clips of every size belongs to you. For 1 ream in every box of paper is owed to you. For you have given your eyes over to the computer monitor. For your wrists ache at night with tendinitis. For your hands have been lacerated by the filing stack. For your manuscript has been printed and copied at the boss's expense. For the boss is a generous patron of the arts, though unwittingly. For the boss has a leather portfolio with engraved initials, and this dust calendar you received in lieu of a Christmas bonus, it's a piece of crap. For your boss does not even know how to turn on the fax machine. For having considered the boss and yourself, you will consider your coworker. For you have given your ears daily to the inane lyrics of your office mate's beloved country station. For you have endured the smell of trout being reheated in the break room. For you are the only one to refill the coffee pot once it has been emptied. For there is an overabundance of highlighters, and you are just trying to ease the burden. For your favorite cross-cut shredder is too large to carry home. For no one knows what happened to all the mechanical pencils. For you have written the manual that no one will read. For ink is costly and dear. For the indexing of bills and debts, which is still considered work. For you have given your life to this company, and in return you should never have to buy another two-pocket portfolio. For there is a price to pay. For it is called attrition. For it is called diminishing returns. For it is called a substitute for employee morale. For you spend more time in your roller chair than in your own bed. For this is expected and part of the annual budget. For the envelopes with small clasps hold their contents firmly. For the envelopes with windows do not come cheap. For to recycle is to show your respect for the planet. For you cannot live without a 3-hole punch. For the legal pads have proved their worth. For firstly, work will come home with you either way, in spirit or in satchel. For secondly, you fear that erasable pens will become relics of the past. For thirdly, you are relieving the office of overstock. For fourthly, you have sharpened your pencils to the finest point. For fifthly, you have always wanted a date stamp. For sixthly, you are liberating the rubber bands and push pins from their uselessness. For seventhly, you could be downsized at any time, and it is good to have reserves. For eighthly, you are assembling a portfolio of your outstanding performances. For ninthly, you will be blamed for taking them whether you have or not. For tenthly, it is your job to supply for your family. For you have considered leaving the company if it weren't for their 20-pound cotton fiber premium white paper with watermark. For a man or woman can be measured by their assortment of writing utensils. For the supply closet only has so much space. For the solar-powered calculator cannot function properly indoors. For the message pads come in useful when communicating with your spouse. For you would laminate the world. For you love all office supplies equally. For no one but you really knows what they're worth. So I'm going to segue to, that poem started me, I think, on a little bit of a project that I call my Offspring Project, which I take poems that I really admire, poems that have stuck with me and lingered in my mind, and I write poems that are in response to them or that use their structure in sort of spurring off of them. And as a way to just move myself forward, because sometimes I deal with some pretty serious writer's block, and this is sort of my personal prompt that I use to get myself unstuck. And there's a poet I really admire, Marie Ponceau, who is, I believe she's 90 years old, maybe 93, still writing. She was a single mother, and I'm going to get this wrong, but I think she raised 7 children on her own. And I just have 2. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm trying to write, and I'm trying to work, and I'm thinking, if she can do it, I can do it. So she's sort of my inspiration and my muse, and she very frequently writes in sonnets, so I thought I would try a couple sonnets. This one's called The Problem of Profanity, and it begins with an excerpt from her poem, Words Keep Here. Today she learns what is said when things fall. Sharp prayer, a shard of language used to cut us from mistakes, inarticulate and dull. How thick the tongue, burning lips we keep shut against the teeth's unrelenting violences. A child, I sounded them out in bathroom stalls, those words that punctuate our silences, scratched, I thought, by the devil's fingernails. How desperate these profane communications. Beneath her blanket's soft, innocent gloom, my 3-year-old daughter chants this lesson. Jesus Christ, she says in a rosy room, glowing from the single nightlight that throws against the pale wall her monstrous shadow. And another sonnet, this one is Epithalamia, 9 years later, so a poem in honor of a marriage, but a marriage that's been going for a while. This is the year we give ourselves a break. No cards or costly meal by candlelight, no wild love or reservations to make. Today we vow not to bicker or fight about rotting windowsills that still need a coat of paint, or the invasive spread of roots from our neighbor's hickory tree. Dress shoes are removed, paired beneath the bed that has carried us through 9 years of nights. A dog, some cats, and 2 rambunctious girls who sleep soundly until the faintest sigh escapes as we reach out for the other's familiar form and, waiting, hold our breath. Here, dear one, is marriage's fragile gift. And I'll read one more offspring that's inspired by a very short poem by Richard Jones. It's called White Towels, and it's one that's always fascinated me. So I'd love the chance to share it with people if they haven't heard it, or even to share it again if you've heard it but have forgotten it. White Towels. I have been studying the difference between solitude and loneliness, telling the story of my life to the clean white towels taken warm from the dryer. I carry them through my house as though they were my children asleep in my arms. So I've always loved that one, and I thought I would try my version of it. Mine is called White Towels, Red Sock. Based on actual events as well. I should know that self-pity has no place here among so many paired socks, yet it bleeds into every corner of the house. These towels lugged from washer to dryer again and again, I hold them up and fold their warmth toward me, pink as my daughter's cheeks, stained but glowing with the sun. So I think I will read one last poem from Congress of Strange People, and it's called My Last Poem, so I thought it would be appropriate. It is nice and toasty. Thank you for sticking it out with me. My last poem. I write my name instead of the poem. It swims cursive through the English Channel. At the right margin, it crawls out breathless and dripping with victory. It's all about me. The president places a gold medal around my neck with my hands. The president places a gold medal around my neck with my name in diamonds. The crowds chant. They fill the stands and look just like me. My face grins from the cover of Time. The article praises my beauty, my skill. I wrote it. When I walk down the street, every hero whimpers after me. No, every dog whimpers after me. I am the hero of children. Shopkeepers paint my name in neon across their windows. Wednesday's dinner menu honors me with extra gravy. I am the guest in every capital. Every poem I read begins and ends with my name. I endorse shoes. The meter is remeasured to fit my foot. All new technologies must pass my approval. Parents give newborns my name like a raffle ticket. The world spins in my direction. The economy blossoms because of me. The literacy rate rockets because of me. Wars end because of me. Peace prevails because of me. If there's hope, it's me. If there's prosperity, me. Change, me. Love, me. Thank you. So I'm up here to answer any questions that you have. Yeah?
You read what I thought was my favorite poem, which is Torturing the Dog, until you read your latest poetry, which is just wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
What I particularly loved about the dog was that he loves without envy,
Yeah.
without partiality. And I was thinking, how many parents would love to love their children equally?
I know.
The truth is, only the family pet can do it.
Yeah. That's sweet. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. I miss my dog. They're wonderful. They're angels. Yeah. Yes.
I was going to ask, what's the longest you've sort of suffered from, say, a writer's block, or what's the pattern and some of the ways, besides that prompt you mentioned,
Right.
to get yourself out?
How do I? Well, honestly, I think what makes me a writer is that even though I suffer writer's block, I don't let it stop me. So I end up writing poems, really, really short poems about writer's block, and they're awful, and I don't ever share them with anybody. But that's sort of how I get myself out. I just persevere, and then one thing that I do that sort of takes the pressure off of writing is I write in a journal, and I do that every day, and that's my space to be disorganized and repetitive and boring, and I give myself permission to just write whatever I want to say. And that sort of keeps me going in the interim. But there have been years where I just feel like every single word has been painful. But I love it so much that it's worth it to keep going. Yeah.
Well, you write in a journal, you said. So do you do that in the morning? Do you do it at a regular time?
Oh, I have no schedule. I mean, right now everything's about stolen moments. So a lot of my writing happens in the Winco parking lot, either before or after grocery shopping. I do it between classes. I write when my girls are in the bathtub. I need a waterproof journal. That would be wonderful. I've written in the shower with one of those bath crayons on the side of the bathtub. Just right now, I'm just piecing it together, and but I get the sense that that's what most people are doing. Very few people have dedicated long spans of time to write, and if they do, we hate them, so or envy them, and so that's sort of my process right now. And yes.
I love your office poems.
Oh, thank
Really
you.
are done.
Yeah, yeah.
How long did you spend in that world, and how did you? Yeah.
4 years, although at different points in my life, that's been the work that I've returned to. But I was there while my husband was in graduate school, and so I was sort of treading water for a while, and it was frustrating. But one of the things as a writer is I realized I needed poems that addressed my life at that moment, and I couldn't find them anywhere. I couldn't find poems that really talked about work. I've read poems about manual labor, about farming, but nothing about like the white collar working world. And so I wrote the poems I needed to read in that situation. And
Or in this case, the pink color.
yes, exactly.
Well, you've inspired me. I've got to write.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Any more questions?